Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? It is Thursday, September 15th, already halfway through the month of September, which is hard to believe. Fall is around the corner. Fall is a week away. Starting to see some Christmas stuff in the stores, so it's getting close to the ending of the year. So I hope everybody is well and safe out there. So today I was going to talk a little bit about a chemical that's actually found in our brain, and it's actually called dopamine. And I think this is important to understand how this chemical works. It's a chemical messenger that is basically a feel-good chemical in our brain. It's a mood alterer in our brain. And when it's not at correct levels, it could lead to depression. It could lead to some sick behavior, such as alcoholism, addiction, and things of that nature. But I think it's important that we try to understand exactly how it works, which is kind of crazy because I was reading online, and honestly, to this day, scientists and doctors have an idea of how it works, but they truly don't know the actual full picture of dopamine or some of the chemicals in the brain. In fact, of all the years researching the brain, it is the organ in the body that we know the least about. I read online that it says that we only feel that we know about 6% of how the brain actually works and how the chemicals in our brain works. To me, that's amazing. 6% with all the years that have gone towards research. Okay, so dopamine, again, is a mood-altering chemical that's in our brain. And if it's not at certain levels, it will certainly lead to depressive behavior. If we have low dopamine levels, it could lead to low libido, muscle stiffness, insomnia, lack of motivation, fatigue, lack of attention, apathy, listlessness. The list goes on and on. Honestly, it sounds like depression, and that's exactly what it is. What happens is you have certain people out there, okay, that the dopamine levels, which should be here, are here. And the reason why they're here could be for a couple of reasons. One, it could be genetics. And that's how you see in family history, addiction running up and down the family tree. Because the brain, through genetics, is just not making the right chemicals or the right mix of the chemicals, one of them being dopamine. The other could be lifestyle. And one of those lifestyles could actually be children playing video games on social media, playing games on their iPhone while their brain is actually forming. Because what's happening is every time they play a game and they win one of those games, the brain is releasing dopamine. So their dopamine levels are actually higher than what they're supposed to be, basically because of the behavior that they're actually demonstrating with their extracurricular activities. And when that behavior stops, like video gaming and so forth, what levels should be here are now here because the brain just didn't know how to make it during those formative years. And I'm going to do a whole separate video about that because that's a pretty deep conversation. But the focus of this one really is about addictive behavior, specifically alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, shopping, eating, whatever it might be. Because what's happening is every time we do drink alcohol, every time we do ingest a substance, every time we engage in activity like gambling, our brain is releasing dopamine levels. And what happens is we might start here, okay? And because of our behaviors, the levels will accelerate. And then once those behaviors stop, okay, our brain is no longer making dopamine levels here. It's making it down here. And if those behaviors continue, the dopamine levels naturally made by the brain are even lower and lower and lower. And what's going to happen is the human body is amazing how it works. It will do whatever it takes to try to correct that, including in the brain with the chemistry. So your brain is going to tell you to basically participate in a behavior that's going to correct those levels. And some of that behavior is reckless, and that's when you become an alcoholic, or a drug addict, or a gambling addict, or a sex addict, or a food addict, okay? Any type of obsessive or addictive behavior is because your body's trying to correct the chemistry that's going on up here. Pretty interesting stat, okay, is that gambling, winning on a slot machine, will actually produce 3 times the amount of dopamine in your brain than a line of cocaine. Okay, so a lot of people think alcohol and drugs. No, behaviors such as gambling can be just as destructive or more. And again, it's because the human brain is trying to heal. So, what's the answer? The answer obviously is try to remove yourself from those lifestyles, from those destructive behaviors. And that's easier said than done. Usually that's working some type of program, some type of 12-step program, trying to figure out what's driving that behavior and so forth. But at the same time, once that destructive behavior stops, your levels are still going to be down here when they should be up here. So there are ways naturally that you can actually get your dopamine levels up. And honestly, everything that I've talked about in these videos kind of go hand in hand. So it might sound daunting and it might seem overwhelming that you have to do all these things, but really it's like a wheel. Everything is working together. So, what are ways you naturally can get your dopamine levels up? One is you got to be able to get enough sleep. You have to get enough sleep. And sleep deprivation will lower your dopamine levels. I realize coming off of alcohol, drugs, and so forth, that you have insomnia, you're going through withdrawals, whatever it might be. You got to try to figure out how to get some sleep. A lot of times it's melatonin. Quick little fun fact for you, pistachios is the highest natural source of melatonin out there. So if you can get a habit of eating pistachios at nighttime as a snack, it's a healthy snack before you go to bed. That can help get your melatonin levels up and help you get a good night's sleep. Listening to music actually increases your dopamine, gives you a dopamine charge naturally. For those of you that know me, I'm a big music guy. I said the best therapy for me is going to the gym, listening to some music. I like going to listen to bands as best as I possibly can, or, it's very therapeutic for me. Maintaining a healthy diet is very important, a well-balanced diet, specifically a diet that actually has a high amino acid called tyrosine, because that will help you increase your dopamine levels in your brain. So what things are we talking about? We're talking about almonds and other nuts. We're talking about eggs, egg whites. We're talking about fish, omegas like salmon, and we're talking about chicken. I'm a big fan of chicken, turkey, and salmon. Eating clean, eating healthy, eating low fat. Exercise, huge in regards to increasing your dopamine levels naturally. Huge component of my recovery. I don't care if it's walking, running, aerobics, light lifting, heavy lifting, whatever, you have to get the body moving. Very important. Meditating, having time for yourself. I have real bad tinnitus from a car accident I was in, so to sit in a room quiet and meditate and think, it's just not for me. Typically, I got to have something going on as far as noise, so sometimes I might meditate with white noise. Sometimes I just listen to music and just kind of gather my thoughts. But that's all form of meditating, and that actually helps you with your dopamine levels. Cutting down on processed sugars, kind of the American way. Again, if you look at our diet, it's a lot of high fat, a lot of processed sugars, everything that drives depression, everything that drives addictive behavior. And then the other thing is removing stressors from your life. And when you talk about removing stressors from your life, that's really having good boundaries, allowing the right people in, gently pushing the wrong people out. Your mental health is so important, and living in as stress-free environment as you possibly can will help your brain heal and will help you get the right chemistry to hopefully beat any type of depressive behavior that might be happening and alleviate you going back to any type of addictive behavior. So that's pretty much it. We're going to elaborate on some of this stuff in the future, but I kind of wanted to get this out there because I think that's a huge component as far as trying to battle mental health related issues such as depression, as well as, again, destructive behaviors such as addiction or alcoholism or gambling or what have you. So I hope you found this video useful. If you like the channel so far, certainly subscribe to the channel and look for another video probably sometime next week. Everybody have a great weekend. Take care.